and welcome back to the IWAR Network Tubecast. I'm your host, NWL and IWL Commissioner Alex G, and with me, as always, our Commissioner Matt Riley. How you doing tonight, Matt?
I forgot to take my energy drink.
Uh-oh. We're in trouble.
Oh, no.
So today will be the holiday Cyclone Review.
It will be.
Yes, it will. So we're going to start off with the BRL. League champions, Sinister, Steve Stryker, TV, Captain Gristle Hackback, Atlantic, Eric Endgame, Central, Luther Alexander, Dixie, Patrick O'Malley, Eastern, King Ferdinand, Mountain, Money-Driven Mike Sebastian, Northern, Jimmy North, Pacific, El Barbaro, Prairie, the Extreme Icon, Hannibal, Southern, General Bob Rockbone, Western, Matt's Latin girlfriend, Rosa. Tag team, Executioner and Classy Eddie DeGrassi. TV tag, Agent 26 and Punk Rock Mike. Six-man, the Midnight Moon and Shadow Warrior. And the TV six-man, the Saskatchewan Sasquatch, Ghostly Shadows, and the Big Bad Red Fox. So, Matt, what's going down in the Battle Royal League?
Well, the PRL's it's an exciting time. It's in a transition. It's about to get some new players. We just had the Battlecade pay-per-view. It's kind of like the cycle after now. And the awards are coming out. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Punk Mike is the global champion, although he's a very slim lead by Clarence Sabrosa. So we'll see if that happens. Oh, man, the EMC, over there calling themselves now, Elite Mutiny Corp or something like that. They're still the tag champs, the slight edge by the Moonshiners. So it's kind of like, a lot of the tag matches are pretty close, or the title matches are close. Let's see, Jax Molson's trailing in both of his title defenses. Tony Dime with a slight 3-point lead, and I think Rick Riley has a 4-point lead.
Nice.
So, I mean, it's like one of those things where it's a best of 3 matches, but in one match you can come back and just, obliterate the other guy and retain your belt. So that's very possible. Did have a surprise out-of-the-blue retirement by Randy the Ram, so that joins the likes of Lumberjack Zach James, which came out of the blue. So it's like, boy, really glad I didn't write that promo yet.
Guys, I don't know how many times we're going to have to mention it. I'll mention it again. If you're going to retire, please let somebody know.
Yeah.
It'd be really helpful. So, thank you.
Yeah, it just, writing-wise, when somebody bombs out. And, I get it. Things happen. But, I always say, for example, when Jimmy North needed a little break from the game for health reasons, we wrote it out into the storyline, and we're happy to do that. But I will say, I think the IWA's Hall of Fame needs to revamp. We'll talk about this later in this episode, but it's actually, I think, too easy to get in the Hall of Fame. So
I agree. I definitely agree with that.
We'll address that later.
El Barbaro had called out Luther Alexander, which is probably not a good idea. Since Luther does not like luchadors.
Oh.
He says they smell like cheap cologne and cigarettes.
Oh, yeah, goes without saying.
He loves tacos, though, which is a strange dichotomy there.
Hey, just don't forget, we're going to get a taco truck on every street corner.
I mean, I hope so. That'd be awesome. Yeah. I love Chipotle. Yeah, I get the steak burrito with double meat.
I have to admit, I didn't realize that Trader Joe's mini chicken and mini beef tacos, they arrive plain, so you have to add your own stuff to it. So for me, it's like, hell yeah.
You ever had a fish taco?
No.
See, people talk about fish tacos like the greatest thing in the world, and I'm pretty sure they're gross.
Sounds gross to me.
I agree. Eric Endgame also talking trash about Luther Alexander, which never ever works out well for the Endgames. We'll see how that goes. We'll stay tuned to that. Happy to see Hannibal on the title page. That's always awesome to see. And Mike Sebastian, your friend, also back on the title page.
Yes, very happy Mike Sebastian is back on the title scene. Hannibal just goes to show that, every 17 cycles something can happen. So, you never know.
God bless his heart.
Yeah, but I will say this: there's a lot going on in the BRL. There's a lot of talent, so it's kind of a transition. The Battlecade just happened. So now it's kind of like, they're setting the stage for WrestleRama, which is in spring cycles, so about 4 or 5 cycles away. And, yeah.
Fantastic. I love it. I dig it. It's good stuff. So next up, we have the CWL Unified Koenig Streaming Media. Fingers Fairlane, United States, Steve the Hitman Chambers. Yukon, the Immortal Steve Copley. Caribbean, Nameless Minion of Solace #2. It's a hell of a record, 845-3.
Oh,
we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
Amazon Basin, Alex von Schnapp. British Isles, Dr. Devious, who may be my favorite name now. I love that name. Arabian, Nameless Minion of Solace #3. South African, Sadistic, Steve Supreme. Siberian, Axel von Schnapp. East Asian, Le Guépard Dior. Although Derek, I think, did send me a pronunciation. I probably just butchered it. I can't find it, sorry. Oops. Oceanic, Bayou Hazard Buck, BG Bayou.
Sure.
What's the BG stand for?
Big gut.
Is it?
BB gun?
I'll ask him. Unified, Le Guépard Dior, and El Puma Plata. Streaming Media, The Untamed Iron Bull, and Touchy Feely Fingers Fairlane. Unified Six-Man, The Untamed Iron Bull, Fingers Fairlane, and Killer Clown. The Streaming Media Six-Man Championship, Forgotten Vagrant, Garrett Shadowstar, and David Hammerhead. So, Matt, what's going down in the CWL?
Well, I think the biggest news in the CWL is that at the pay-per-view, Extinction pay-per-view, there was a big casket match between John Body, the Continental Champion, and Harry Hoodstar. So 2 hated stars going head-to-head. But Body, controversially, was signed on to the IWL by the IWAR draft and trying to take the championship with him. And as it turned out, suddenly, out of the blue, Death Warrant, wrestler was one of the biggest win totals in the IWA, came down to the ring, choke slammed everybody. Victor von Schnapp ran in, tried to help. He got choke slammed, and everyone just got beaten to hell. And in the midst of it, just when Body thought he had Harry Hoodstar dead to rights, he burst his hand out of the coffin and choke slammed him into it, and they fought. And you got to read the result. But the end result was that Harry Hoodstar, for the 4th time, setting a new record, is the Continental Champion. So Body leaves without the Continental Championship belts. Now we got to see what Death Warrant's going to do. It's going to be interesting for sure. So that's one part of it. The Tandem Championship Tag Tournament is still going on. And there's also Forgotten Vagrant, I think, is still the Capital Championship. So the homeless guy has the money belt. It's kind of funny. Other news going on. There's a whole bunch of talent just piling in. So the Blanks are there. Psycho Circus is there. And other stars are arriving. So I think one of the biggest surprises was the return of Solace. Now, for those that don't know who Solace was one of the big players in the NWL about 3 years ago.
Luther Alexander's former tag team partner.
Yeah. So way back when, was it 3 years? Whatever it was. Came in and the CWL, was one of the big stars in the works, and then he just up and disappeared, left the game. So he's up out of nowhere, reappeared. So he's back, and we're going to see what his deal is.
Guys, he was a really good player with some really great trash talk. We should probably post a picture on the on his cover of the IWA ringside. I might have that around here somewhere.
Do that or find it now.
Yeah. Glad to see him back, so welcome back. It should be lots of fun. So next up is the IWL. League, Dr. Victory. Television, Shotgun, James Carnage. New York City, Luther Alexander. Los Angeles, Andrew Jefferson Kaufman. Boston, Che Guerrero. Detroit, Kennedy Cage. Cleveland, Senor Lucha. Dallas, John Slaughter. Memphis, Tim Riggins III. Miami, Phantom Striker. San Francisco, TJ Relic. Chicago, Liam Larkin. Well, I'm pretty sure he's BRL bound. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, he is. Tag team, Grant Underwood and Kennedy Cage. TV tag team, Van Death Valen and the Shadow, Tony Lowen. Six-man, Shotgun James Carnage and Blackjack Robinson. And Texas, Jesse Tombstone. And the TV six-man, Frederick Xavier, Grant Underwood, and Kennedy Cage. Someone looks like someone had their NXT name generator out. So, just kidding. I'm just kidding. So, Matt, what's going down on the IWL?
Nothing.
Fuck off.
Oh my God. Well, the new commissioner's a real prick.
I heard that about him.
Yeah. See, well, what's going on? Well, there was the controversial pay-per-view.
What wasn't that controversial?
Well, we'll see the write-up next issue, right?
So what we're doing, guys, we're going to have post-to-post. Actually, we're going to have the cover. Cover's already done. The write-up will go in directly after the cover, and then we'll go into the normal stuff that you see in post-to-post. Go into that because there are some announcements. We're going to have the qualifying matches for Elimination Chamber, so we're going to have 4 qualifying matches. The 4 winners will get a shot at the American Territories title held by Koenig currently, and an Elimination Chamber match at Wrestle Riot. So it'll be a 5-man match, and he will get to defend his championship against 4 of the top contenders. In addition, which will be the next following cycle, but we're going to announce it this cycle, we're going to have 2 tournaments. First will be the Elite 8 tournament. The winner of that tournament will get a IWL Heavyweight Championship match down the road. The winner of the Young Lions Cup will receive the American Territories Championship match down the road. Now, the Young Lions Cup is a 16-man tournament with all our newbies. So if you recently just joined the IWL, there's a very good chance you'll be entered into this tournament, sort of like the IWL rookies, at least in a sense. There are a lot of veterans who are now new, so I can't really call them rookies, can I?
Right.
So that's going to be cool. We do have a winner for Soul Survivor, but that will be revealed at the write-up. So you'll get to learn who won Soul Survivor, and it's a hell of a
Gregory Snodgrass?
Is not. He's dead.
Oh, he's dead.
We had a tribute video and everything. You missed it. What happened with him was he was playing World of Warcraft, and he didn't pee for 2 days and dropped dead.
Oh.
Yeah. Good for him.
It's just how his great-great-grandparents would die. Good year? No, the worst.
So lots of cool stuff coming up in the IWL. Again, we have these tournaments and qualifying matches coming up real soon. And we'll basically take it from there. I hope everyone's liked what we're doing over in the IWL currently. Again, if you have suggestions, please let me know. I can't give you the result for the War Games match between Revolution Extreme and Empire Chaos. Empire Chaos had won that match, and then made Mr. Atari submit. So.
Oh no, that's actually not accurate.
Oh yeah?
He never said I submit or I quit. He said to crit. They said, "Where are you from?" And he said to crit. That's I think what happened.
Okay. And then the big news coming out of that is a Great David defeated Creed Michaels for the IWL Heavyweight Championship. We did have a qualifying match, so if Scotty Flash was a mystery opponent for Koenig, if Scotty Flash would have won that match, he would have been automatically entered into the Elimination Chamber match, but unfortunately, Scotty Flash did not win that match. And you get to see the full details and all the results in the next issue of Post to Post. And I'm thinking for our next contest, I'm trying to come up with a prize. And it may involve a 3-month subscription to the WWE Network, but I want to see if I can actually pull that off. So don't quote me on that, but if you don't have the WWE Network, this would be a good opportunity for you to try it for 3 months. If you do, this will be 3 months free, so it's like a $30 value. So it's a good price.
There you go.
Yeah. So next up is the NWL League Champion, highlight of the night, Johnny Vegas.
Woo!
Who is IWL bound, from what I understand. TV champion Bullman, Atlantic, Whiston Smith Jr., Central, Jerome the Bone Smitty, Dixie, Alpha Male XD, Eastern, Dr. Eras, Mountain, Marcus the Monster Monroe, Northern, the Icon, Hulk Hollywood. Hollywood spelled in all caps.
Sure.
Okay. Pacific, the General, Ulysses Monroe, Prairie, the New Age Outlaw, Mark Malice, Southern, Drunken Camper. Western, The Patriot. Tag Team, Alpha Male XD and Jerome the Bone Smitty. TV Tag Team in their last cycle, Big Blank number 1 and Big Blank number 2. Six-man, Mark Malice, Johnny Vegas, and Hulk Hollywood. And TV six-man, Piper Monroe, Ulysses Monroe, and Marcus Monroe. What's going down in the NWL?
Well, nothing like the BRL, but what's going down there? Lots going down. Namely, most of the championship title holders. They're all transferring out soon. So it could be a big wholesale sweep. It depends what happens. I don't know. It's one of those things, like when you're trying to leave a league, you always seem to win a title, and it's like, I want to leave. And you kind of bite the bullet and be like, screw this.
Well, I think the big news coming into this cycle is that Bullman had won the latest NIT and will face Black Belt Jones for the national championship of this cycle coming up. So be on the lookout for that. That should be a hell of a matchup. I'm pulling for Bullman on this, to be honest. So we'll see how it goes there. And at this point, right now we're in a transition period. So if you guys noticed, the TT was a little light this cycle, but fully expected. I knew that was going to happen, but no cause for concern. Don't worry, this happens all the time. And this gives opportunities for other guys to step up and fill the void, which, since I took over the league 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I even forget. It's always happened. Doubts there. Other than that, we're probably going to start preparing for our next event, which will be Lethal Lottery. Lethal Lottery being exactly what it says it is. A bunch of wrestlers get put into a hat, and you guys form tag teams as at random, and then you're thrown in the tournament, and the winner will get a shot at the NWL National Tag Team Championship. So be on the lookout for that. So I think overall, we'll see some good stuff. I saw Mark Malice, who called out Black Belt Jones.
Uh-oh.
That's always interesting. He wants to do a best-of-7 series. So that could be real interesting.
Well, the only problem with that is Mark Malice.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is it goes back to the reminder for players that your 17 cycles includes you.
You.
And your wrestlers.
All of them.
If you are like, I'll wait till the 18th, 15th cycle and create a wrestler and stay on. No, it's not how the NWL works. Because you notice that the guys who are on the top title page right now, almost all of them are graduating or about to.
Yeah.
That's one of the good signs that they're doing really well. They're ready for the big time, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, we know you like the NWL. We have fun there, but there are other leagues to go to and enjoy. So, if you're graduating, it means you and your roster have to move on. You don't, keep this in mind. You don't all have to go to one league. You can split your roster up, send some here, send some there. I've seen guys do that. You can also go to all the same league if you wish. But yeah, 17 cycles is, or 18, we allow a little bit of leeway there, is kind of the maximum. So we let a little bit of bonus because of some things that happened this particular year. But yeah, that could be a problem with Black Belt Jones.
He's gonna win. He's gonna win 4 straight. So no issues there.
Oh, right.
So
there you have it.
So Matt, you got any news? Any IWAR wide news?
Well, the tag team derby is down to 4 teams.
Oh, who are they?
There were some upsets, but Johnny Vegas and Mark Malice advanced to the semifinals. They will face the tag team of...
Well, Matt is searching for that. I can tell you that the Regulators, the current IWAR tag team champions, are currently on their historic title reign for the IWL Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. Right now, they're currently sitting at 483 days.
Are they? I
mean, I'm not a math wizard, but that seems pretty legit.
We'll see about that.
We'll find out next cycle.
Yeah. Let's see here. So, Johnny Vegas and Mark Malice will face Ghostly Shadows and the Saskatchewan Sasquatch. So, a battle of NWL current and NWL veterans. And then the other semifinal is Piper and Marcus Monroe of the NWL. Although they're moving on relatively soon. I don't think right away, though, right?
From what I understand, and I could be wrong, I believe they're splitting.
Oh.
So I know that IWL is getting somebody, and I'm not sure who else is getting people.
Oh, okay.
But
Well, speaking of the IWL, they will face off with the IWL's Rough Boys, Magnum TL and Tim Riggins 3.
fucking gross.
Rough Boys. You know, I don't know. That's like a boy band name, but whatever.
Not what I'm thinking.
That's the 9th Tag Team Derby, brought to you by Trojan. And
Astroglide.
Astroglide, yeah. Actually, it would be rough. It would be probably like Sandglide. No.
Astroglide smells funny. It smells like burnt Vaseline.
Hey, well, hey, hot stuff. Bound for Glory 4 will feature one semifinal of Crazy Carl from the IWL versus Agent 26 of the BRL. And in the other semifinal, Gran Sabrosa of the BRL takes on the BRL's Hot Stuff Adam Cash. So,
let me ask you a question. Did you recede to give yourself an advantage?
I sure did.
Yes, I knew it.
Yep, that's. I specifically made sure that Adam Cash won all 3 of his matches in the first phase of the tournament.
I'm pretty sure. I thought you had to bye to the finals.
Did that too. Yep, I totally didn't beat Clark Pierpont, which, by the way, hit a 488, and Adam Cash hit a 489.
Ooh.
I was going against Andy's guy, and I'm like, I'm screwed. And then I was look at the breakdown of the point values, and I'm looking at the first, like, oh no, Adam Cash isn't even the first column, which is usually like all the 490s. When I get to the top part of the second column, I'm like,
I love it.
489, I'm fucked. So then I look at the CWL's results, and I'm like, 488! Oh, 1 point win. So, curious, the IWL's lone representative that's left, but all 4 wrestlers, for making it this far, earn a year of free Battle Royal entries.
That's a $17 value.
It sure is. So, that is a nice prize, but of course, only the winner will face the IWAR World Champion at WrestleRama 11 in the spring. So there's that.
Fucking Gunter.
Sir Gunter, the longest reigning IWAR World Champion. Which reminds me, I do like the fact that Kevin Owens addresses himself as the longest reigning WWE Universal Champion.
Nice.
That's a good way to do it.
I dig it.
So yeah, there's potential there. So I don't want to jinx it, but I'm crossing my fingers for Adam Cash because, I want to anger the internet warriors, the IWC as it is. So that's those events, and then in other news, Sir Gunter retained against Punk Rock Mike. The Regulators defeated the Elite Military Corp. Then the 6-man match. Now remember, the 6-man tournament, the Triple D Cup, determined the new world champions, which were World 6-man champions, IWAR, which were Dr. Victory, Dr. Aries, and Bullman. Only problem was, in that final match, there was a screw-up, and instead of facing the proper tandem of Von Schnaps, they threw in some other wrestler. So to make up for it, there was a rematch. And the Von Schnaps in the rematch won the rematch, but with the champ's advantage, they didn't win by 3, so because they did win, they do get a rematch without the champ's advantage. So that's happening this coming cycle when Sir Gunter will face Harry Hoodstar, and the Regulators get a cycle off because the CWL has no tandem champions right now. So there's that.
So is it vacant currently?
It is. It's being filled by a tournament. Okay. So
sweet. Now I know you mentioned the Hall of Fame, and I know we talked about it earlier in the day, and I think I made the point is like, I mean, I understand that the IWA has their Hall of Fame, and it's determined by wins and iCash and what have you.
5 million.
But what is the real Hall of Fame? Like, what are some of the guys that made the biggest impact on the game, and how come those guys don't get celebrated probably as much? And is the Hall of Fame now meaningless because I can buy my way into it pretty easily?
Yeah, and that's originally when they first established IWA Hall of Fame. 1,000 wins were actually, not that they weren't easy to get, but I remember when like Hot Rod Hoven had 100 victories in IWA, it was like a big deal. And it was like, oh, wow, 100 victories. But the guys had like 4 matches a cycle. Well, now you can have like 200 matches a cycle if you want.
Right.
And if you get the $12 deal, you get the 20 matches for free. You get 20 scrub wins. It adds up.
Yeah.
So The 1,000 wins, I would nix. I would say that is just not a really good barometer because we've seen multiple. I remember one of the first wrestlers in the NWL, RJ Venom. We were like, "Oh, this guy's a good player," and he got his 1,000 wins. Is like, "See ya,"
Peace.
and retired. And we just saw recently Lumberjack, Zach James, and now Randy the Ram, who had literally 1,001 wins. Like just crossed the finish line. I was like, "F this! I'm going home. See ya." So we lost Randy the Ram. And it's not to say those players didn't put in an effort, but it is vastly harder to rack up $5 million in iCash than it is 1,000 wins. Because the iCash you earn through your wins, your titles, that way, or longevity. You know, I mean, like I think of my wrestlers, I think I have 3 guys who have over 5 million, and I'd have 4, but Senior Luchas I gutted to get. There was a guy who passed away, Ed Ledger. He didn't have enough to qualify for the Hall of Fame, so I donated the money, which seemed stupid at the time. Like, just put the guy in the Hall of Fame. Like, I'm just like, can you go around the rule once? So, yeah, I have wrestlers that have had that much money, but it's like Adam Cash is like a couple $1 million. You know, it's like it's harder to earn big money after a while.
Right.
So we were talking earlier about what's a better way to really honor some of the players. Now, the very first time we had players in Hall of Fame, there was a selection committee. It was myself and about, I think, 9 other players that got together and figured out the 10 players we thought should be the first 10 in the Hall of Fame. Now, I'm going to pull that up right now and tell you who they are. Because, the Hall of Fame is supposed to be a hallowed ground. But if you go by that way right now, if I go to the Hall of Fame chart, there are over 1,000 wrestlers in the Hall of Fame. Now, to be fair, there have been some fantastic wrestlers. But the first 10 wrestlers in the Hall of Fame were as such. Jumping John Elway, James Derringer, Lethal Lex Bronson, Awesome Colossus, Bonnie Hunter ACE, Marvelous Mark DeAngelis, Johnny Vendetta, Rick Challenger, and Frank Leatherman Snow. Now that was the first class of wrestlers, and those guys were like Rick Challenger didn't have $5 million. He didn't have 1,000 wins, but he was one of those guys pivotal. Johnny Vendetta was a 4-time IWAR Tag Team Champion. There were things that they had done. They were in the game. They were pivotal to the creation of the Fun League, etc. Okay? So that was like an honor to bestow. Well, the problem now is, I see names. I scroll down. Number 12, Ultimate Ninja. 13, Rock. I remember Rock because he had 20,000 wins or something like that. Ridiculous. I look down and I see Marty Jannetty. I'm sorry. Marty Jannetty should never be in a Hall of Fame, real or imagined.
Maybe the Cocaine Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Ozzy Gruesome. Psycho-Driven Savage. And it's funny, they also list the name of the players that, ran them. And, Dynamite Bobby Sacks. I have a problem with some of the guys because I know some of the wrestlers were involved in scandals, and it's you know what? I wouldn't give guys who are Scandals. The Stunner, Steve Anderson, Brandon Bailey ran him in the BRL. There were some wrestlers who had, wow, sudden death. I see these names. Jumpin' Jimmy K9. If you're a player from the way back when, you remember some of these names. Child of Hate. Arsenal, who is still around. I don't care what they say. He is. It's the same manager, same wrestler. He has 8 gazillion wins. Rock and Roll Eric Von Wolf. Crusher and Thunderbolt McHugh by Alex Giroux. I remember fighting that guy and having great matches again, or feuds. So what we're getting at is that what happened is because you made it so easy to qualify for the Hall of Fame, you diluted it. It's not as big an honor. So we were saying, what if we had some sort of other way to recognize the greats?
How the Observer has the Observer Hall of Fame?
Yes.
And they do little pieces on them and that kind of stuff. And it's not just a guy who's been, he was a jobber in '86.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it's one of those things that I think there's some merit to it. And, when I was doing some random IWA research the other day, I stumbled upon an old GeoCities site. So if you're going, what's a GeoCities site? Congratulations.
Fuck off.
You're probably under 30. back in the 90s, GeoCities in the 2000s was this free website you could design your own websites on, and largely featured god-awful graphics and terrible GIF files or GIF files. But this one particular one, which was PBM Wrestling World, I think Dave White ran it. I'm not sure, but it was like loaded with things like, I see here, a U.S. champion. This is a report from June of 2003. The U.S. champion with 499 points was Tragedy, the KHL, who won $50 for his manager, Donald Henry. Hey, Don. That's right. They used to give cash for the U.S. championship. The world champion used to get $500 in cash. It is not iCash. That is not credit. Used to get $500 in cash.
Real money.
Real money. So if you were a big player, you know, I used to say, this is why people flooded. They were like, fuck this shit. I'm going to flood the fuck out of it, spend $100 and get 500. It's like, it's a safe bet. Or, you know, at least a good odds, right? Because there are guys that have like 20 world titles. So if you do the math and go, this guy won how many world titles? You know, but like if you had 200 wrestlers, you had pretty good odds. Well, in that vein, I think, you know, you can see why they used to give money out, but they also had a shit ton more players. The one thing they don't have listed here is they don't list the top. They have the top 10 most active leagues, but like this is 2003 when everyone tells me, oh, back in the glory days. I don't know, because there was only 653 matches in the HAL,
right,
as the most active league, along with the BBL, ASL, ZZL. Like, you know, I think it's a matter of perspective. And one thing about the IWA is I did a little chart to keep track of since 2005. Since 2000,
put that in perspective. The LWL had 1,000 matches.
Right.
That cycle.
Yep. And that's like, you know, just looking at the current report, or I should say, quick side note, if you're in the IWL, don't forget, when you send your matches in this cycle, it's 2 for $1.
Now, does that work with IWA credit as well?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the deal has always been, as long as you spend $5 of your money or $5 credit, you know, you can do that. So, yeah, you can do that. I know I'm doing the $12 deal because I'm a greedy fuck. But just to kind of give you a perspective, so 2003, all right, I have no records, and the IWA records only go back as far as 2005 for the IWA report. But in the game itself, there were 73 leagues in 2000. There are 65 leagues currently. So you go, okay, that's 8 leagues. It's not a big difference. But in 2011, there were 89 leagues. So it went slowly, gradually up, peaked at 2011, went down to 88, 75, 74, 62. And the big drop really around the 2011 was they did away with the bulk rate. And when the bulk rate went away, a lot of the big roster guys were like, screw this. If I can't, penny any my way to like, federation titles because I'm a cheap bastard, screw this. And yeah, that's what works. So Hall of Fame wise, getting back to our main point, I think if you wanted to have a Hall of Fame, we could do something like that, So there may be things in the works. There are many things in the works right now. We can't talk about all of them, but that's one of the ones we could kick around.
Yeah. I do want to quickly go over IWA wides. So we had the Metropolitan champ, Sinister Steve Stryker, come out of the BRL.
Yep.
We had the Gold Federation champion, also Sinister Steve Stryker, come out of the BRL. We had the national champion, which is General Bob Rockbone, come out of the BRL. Central champion, Luther Alexander, coming out of the BRL. Eastern champion, Latin King Ferdinand, coming out of the BRL. And that is all. So congratulations to those folks who made the title page. Nice job.
By the way, I'm just looking at more of this Johnny B stuff from like 2003 summer report. Speaking of Hall of Fame, this guy made the Hall of Fame with just over 1,000 wins. He's known as one of the most controversial performers ever to wrestle in the IWA and to find mid-carder. Oh, wow. They had a Match Mania 18, which had the results of that. So it was, Truck Driving Man, Dr. Blood, Brett Bubba. Reading some of the names.
Brett Bubba.
Brett Bubba. It's just funny to see some of the names like, hey, I know that guy, or Like, oh my God, that guy used to play in the game. He's gone now. Screw you guys. I'm going home. Top 10 leagues. Let's see. 793 matches. So yeah, not knocking me dead here.
So Matt, why don't you tell me about the time the IWA gave away a 10 speed?
Well, the IWA used to have contests for random things.
Amazing.
Yeah, and one of them was a 10-speed bike. Now, my thinking always is this. Where the fuck did they go, hey, you know what? Let's give away a bike. Like, who was like, yeah, man. And like, you'll see the picture when we post this here. But challenge, 9 matches for just $5, no hold values. It's like up to $125, first champion only. So it was some sort of event. Let me see here. Challenge wrestling. That sounds awful. It sounds like challenge pissing. Your strategy stands on its own since there are no hold values. The results are sent back to you immediately, and you also get a copy of the challenge magazine. I don't know what the hell this was. This had to have been somebody else's promotional thing. I think if I had to guess, this was somebody's like outside the game trying to like, use IWA as an advertisement. It looks like it probably failed horribly. $5. You need to get a lot of entries to get that money back. Unless you're going to ride the bike.
I wonder what kind of bike you would get. I would assume it was a Huffy.
Well, it's a 10-speed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know the. I was a BMX man, so I don't fucking know.
No.
Fuck
Did
that.
you have a Diamondback or a Mongoose?
I had a GT. I had gel grips, bitch. 3-piece cranks. Shit, I was the man when I was alive.
Yeah.
So yeah, 10-speed bicycle gave away, and it looks like the World Unlimited, which is the parent company of the IWA, had other fantasy type leagues as well. You want to talk about Rogue Football?
Yes, I did. There was a few of them. The first one I tried was Rogue Football, which is basically IWA venturing into like fantasy sports. So fantasy sports in the sense of you made your own players' names up. You gave them stats like strength, speed, agility, things like that. And they had games with results. There was no rhyme or reason I could figure like how it was. I don't even know how I won a trophy. It was like your team got snookered this week, 58-0. This week it won 58-0. Like what? But I made all the team players up out of members of my old stable, the New Age Management. So I had the New Age Management monthly newsletter because before the internet, you used to like type things out and mail it to people. And
or Western Union if you were rich.
Right, and we won, so that was kind of fun. But it was a fun little distraction. There was also baseball, there was basketball, there was hockey, and I was developing a NASCAR game.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Johnny B and I were talking. We talked one time, and I was like, "Oh," and my dad was always in a NASCAR, and I mentioned that, and I said, "Do you think they make a NASCAR?" And he was like, "Well, So we talked about it, and I was kind of putting it together, and I sent him a rough draft, and I had a whole thing broken down by like you'd put more points into the engine or tires or driver skill, all these different categories, ownership, and the idea was you'd have to figure out where to race, like." Were you a track racer? Were you a circuit racer? Were you, what kind, whatever, right? What kind of make car you chose? So instead of like holds, you kind of picked all these other categories,
Mm.
And shortly after I sent it to him, they pulled the plug on those games.
So why do you think they pulled the plug? Why do you think the wrestling survived and nothing else?
I think because there were so many, like, you could go and play like Tecmo Bowl football on your computer.
Right.
You could play Madden, like, well, not Madden, but like, similar video games. There was technology out there. Wrestling wise, yeah, but wrestling wise, you couldn't feud with somebody else. The online component of wrestling wasn't there yet. Like, you couldn't be like, hey, I'm gonna log into like Call of Duty and kick your ass. And I think wrestling wise, you had more people who were just fans of wrestling. This was an outlet, a random, bizarre outlet, but outlet nonetheless.
So for some of you who don't know, fantasy sports like fantasy baseball was probably the first one that came out, and that was like in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
And that's where it really got started, and now it's a global phenomenon, and people are watching football who never watched football anymore, who never watched football before because of No, so-and-so is on my fantasy team. Well, I think it hurts the sport overall. That's a whole nother discussion for
Right.
time because you're rooting for players, not teams, and it's weird.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah. So sweet.
Yeah. So I remember I got that crazy trophy, and I was like, wow, a trophy. And there was a boxing one I did, and it was the same idea. Like my record was like I had Mel Macho Man McCauley Jr., like the son of the wrestler. And I won the title, and they were like, "Do you want a plaque?" And I have the plaque somewhere. I have no idea where it is now, but yeah, it was like those little wooden plaques I sent you with a little gold emblem on it, but it had boxing gloves on it. And
Now I played a boxing by mail game too. This was circa 1991, and what's notable about that, it was that you only submitted stuff like 4 times a year, and by like the third cycle, I was like, fuck, because it took so long to come. Like the wrestling game, like now it's every 3 weeks, blah blah blah. But can you imagine waiting 9 weeks, 12 weeks to get results back? I've been insane. So that didn't last long. I don't know why I picked it. I was big into the Ring magazine when I was a kid too. I like boxing.
By the way, fun fact: in 2003, the IWA had 61 leagues. So those who've been telling me for years that the heyday was the early 2000s. I think the cash was there, but the game exploded in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Which, you think about it, that's kind of when, well, I guess I wouldn't say heyday. Wrestling was big in the late 90s.
Boom period, safe to say, would be 97 to 2001. And then we went, I wouldn't really consider it a secondary boom from 2002 to 2006. But no, it was still pretty hot until about 2006, and then it all came off the rails.
Oops.
Yeah. That was the perfect storm of, like, the angles weren't going anywhere, the TV-14 shit wasn't working, wrestlers are dying left and right, it couldn't really hurt the business, so they went to PG, shut everything down, and moved forward. Yeah. Fuck those guys. I blame Rod McMahon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Rod was supposed to take over for Vince. So Vince wanted to take himself off TV. That's when they blew himself up in the limo.
Yeah.
And they were going to bring in Vince's legitimate, real-life brother, whose name is Rod, short for Roderick. And he was going to come in and step in for Vince until they figured a way to bring him back on TV. But I think Sherry had died the week before, and then the Benoit thing happened.
Yeah,
so
thanks. Shitty wrestler Benoit.
So that's where we never get to see Vince's brother, Rod McMahon. And he really does have a brother named Rod. But I don't know if he would have played them or his legitimate brother would have played them. Yeah, there you go. So, guys, we are officially out of time for this episode of the IWAR Network Tubecast. So, for Matt Riley, I'm Alex G.